It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again, time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 324. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hi.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Hi.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hello.
I think that's the first time we've made it through an intro without somebody adding something.
I mean, maybe in a long time.
In a long time, yeah. I'm less confused.
Doesn't sound like you're less confused.
I mean, I'm confused by the fact that there's not a confusion point. Also, Ash, I had to say your see ya at the end of last week. It felt weird not to have someone saying see ya.
It's true.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, I'm waiting for it. Wait, right, he's not here. So this week, World of Warcraft launched its next expansion, Shadowlands, and it launched in a weird time. Like, it launched at 6 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday, because, it launched in all time zones at exactly the same time. So, I played a little bit.
It launched on Monday.
Monday, not Wednesday.
Monday. Sorry, Monday. God, it has been longer than I thought it has. Okay. So Monday. There you go. And I didn't play a ton on Monday night, but it seemed perfectly reasonable. I had one slight issue where I had a character get stuck in the world, and logging in a character on another server seemed to have unstuck it, and basically the servers just worked at 6 o'clock Eastern. I happened to be standing in Orgrimmar, and a text message popped up telling me I had a new quest to start the Shadowlands, which was really weird because I don't remember their launches being like that before.
They've had at least one that was like that before.
It was like a rolling start.
Yeah.
I'm used to the concept of trying to log in at the time of the event, and maybe it probably makes it more smooth if you're not prematurely kicking people out right ahead of a launch. I don't know.
Yeah, I do remember one back when I was playing that was it was really trying to log in to already be on when the clock ticked over, and then it just popped up the message at the appropriate time. I don't remember which one that was.
So I had not really done much of this content in alpha. I had basically there's a little intro event that happens in Azeroth that takes you over to the Shadowlands, and I had done that, and then most of my time in alpha was really just playing classes and figuring out what the specs were like and things like that. So for the most part, the story was fresh, and I gotta admit, I'm still not 100% sure if I like this expansion or not, and I've pretty much just been playing it all week. It's different. It's really different from a normal WoW expansion.
It does feel very different from previous expansions.
How do they get you into the Shadowlands?
Obviously, they kill you.
You stand in the defile.
Yeah, you basically stand in the defile. You go up to Ice Crown, and they collect the pieces of the broken Helm of Domination that Sylvanas cracked open to create the giant tear between the worlds. And you essentially use it as a anchor point to teleport a bunch of people into the Shadowlands.
Okay, so you're intentionally going into the Shadowlands at this point. It's not just you died.
No, because Sylvanas has gone into the Shadowlands, and we are, in essence, chasing Sylvanas.
Because she's definitely the villain, definitely the big bad of the expansion. Definitely,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, interesting things. There is no factional anything going on. It is a totally non-factional story.
Oh, so this is one of the expansions I would like. They
Maybe?
they flip back and forth between we're all about faction and then we're all about collective action.
So it feels real weird to jump from an expansion where the red versus blue narrative is so hard crammed down your throat to one where everyone's working together. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
Felt weird going in the other direction too.
yeah, like it
The
always
story
does.
of
Like,
World of Warcraft.
I disliked the red versus blue of the previous expansion, but because it was so intense and ingrained, when I started this one, and one of the very first things you're doing is like, go help Jaina, and go help Jaina rescue Anduin. I was totally checked out because I had just spent an entire expansion where we were all at each other's throats.
Didn't you hear? It's Tuesday. That means we're friends again.
Right.
I mean, isn't this
Time to
also
play Mario Kart.
Isn't this also the story
We'll kill each
of,
other again on Thursday.
Isn't the story of World of Warcraft also always like a very ham-fisted, actually it was the Alliance that was right? Like, that kind of feels like where this has gone as well. It's like, well, yeah, now we're all working together because the Horde was being led by Sylvanas, and Sylvanas bad.
so here's it. Like, if you had followed the whole chain of quests, there is a resolution that basically ends up with this group that is factionless. They aren't really like following the Alliance, and they aren't really following the Horde. They're kind of their own little thing, and that's who ends up going into the Shadowlands. But I mean, the screwball thing about that is one of them is the ruler of Stormwind, so it's hard to say like they're factionless, but still, like there were events that led up to explain the shift. But the problem is like if you had played through BFA and that's it, and you get thrown in the middle of this, it feels real confusing. Like, why are we wait, wasn't Jaina a raid boss? Why are we suddenly hanging out with her now? But so we basically teleport our way into the Shadowlands, which lands us in the middle of this zone called the Maw. And put a pin in that concept because we'll revisit the Maw in a bit. But basically, you now have to figure out how to rescue your friends from the clutches of an entity known as the Jailer, which is what Sylvanas has been working for. Like, it is this entity that broke the machinery of death. So in the Shadowlands, there is a natural order of things, and there is an entity called the Arbiter that is supposed to basically sift the souls as they come into the Shadowlands. And based on what kind of a person you were, you go to one of many afterlives. If you are the worst of worst, you go straight down into this place called the Maw, which is like a realm of eternal torment. Something happened that caused the Arbiter to basically tilt and is just gone. Like it is a broken machine, and everything is going into the Maw now. And as a result, all of these realms that basically survived off the souls of the dead coming to them are all going through this massive drought, and they're all handling it slightly differently. So you've got like this realm called Maldraxxus, which is, they were the defense force of the Shadow Realms, and they're like all these undead things that made up the army. There's Ardenweald, which is basically the anti-Emerald Dream. Like, if Emerald Dream is springtime, the Ardenweald is nighttime and winter. led by the Winter Queen.
Okay, so it's the Winter Court.
Yeah, it's the Winter Court. Like literally, the person is the Winter Queen. Then you've got Bastion,
the most boring zone possible, and the first one that you start your questing in. And that's what makes it feel.
This is Paladin Angel Town, I'm guessing.
Paladin Angel Town, where everyone like has this stoic religion of basically everything happens for a reason, and you have to trust the path, and like you have to trust the natural order of things.
Wow, I'm exhausted already.
It's just it's like the entire zone is like this white and different shades of yellow.
It's very pretty and very peaceful, and it just lulls you into a very gentle sleep.
And somewhere in the history of this zone, there was a very Randy Griffin that humped everything. Because everything looks like it's some kind of griffin. Like the deer look like griffins. The flying lions look like griffins. The little burb helper friends look like griffins.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and it's secretly run by some super corrupt demon or something.
Probably.
So basically, like this is what makes this expansion different from every other World of Warcraft expansion. They introduce the concept of the main story quest. Like literally a main story quest. It has its own icon.
Separate markers and separate place in your quest log.
I'd like to point out that Legion had a main story quest. You just need to do it in order.
Yeah, right. I've seen that before.
Right, exactly. Like this is basically, like, legitimately, like this is the expansion where Blizzard attempted to do a Final Fantasy XIV expansion. And there is a story. In some ways, yes. Some ways, no. It is very uneven. The quality of the story is very uneven. So, like I said, like Grace said, you start off in Bastion, and it is hard to get through.
Yeah. So you were asking about the story there, and it's a story that maybe you'll be able to figure out where this goes, because there are these angels, and being in heaven is really boring and regimented and has a lot of rules. And so some of the angels were like, I don't want to follow those rules. I would like to be an independent entity and remember my past. And then fighting ensues.
Not allowed.
Yeah. I mean, like, so much of like the early quests are you learning how to be an angel, where basically they have to wash themselves of every independent thought. Like, you go through these purifying rituals where like these demons manifest, which are their bad thoughts, and you have to fight off the bad thoughts. And like,
so normally we accuse Blizzard of liking old Warhammer, but it seems they also like new Warhammer.
and the problem is like, okay, so there's two problems with this area. Is like, one, it's a boring zone. Like the layout is just, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't doing anything for me. And two, I had significant issues with the religious message that's being presented in this zone. I
feel like there's a hilarious amount of weird religion happening, because now there is no way to have lived the good life that gets you into the good parts of the underworld. Everyone goes to the worsts.
Yep. So somehow everybody is ending up in the bad place.
This is the bad place.
And
this is the bad place.
So somehow you were able to interact with this partially destroyed portal that you find in the Maw that lets you go to not Shatrath, which is this place of the creators that, like, you know, has the Arbiter and, you know, allows you to transfer to other zones. And
you can call it not Dalaran now, since they used Dalaran 3 times.
It's more Shatrath, though. It really is more Shatrath.
It feels a lot like Shatrath.
And you have a boring walk-around quest telling you where the stuff is, just like you did with Shatrath.
But this is entirely unrelated to the light, right? Because we figured out the light are like space aliens.
The light and the void are not good or evil. Like, they're just things. They can both be used for good or evil in this world now.
Sure.
There's the light is not pure. In fact, the light did some pretty heinous stuff during Legion.
Right. I know there's like alternate reality, like Draenei Nazis. So, but yeah.
Yes. So this is just where people go when they're dead, and like traditionally, these worlds use the souls that come in as a fuel source, and they do different things with them.
Oh, that I'm sure there's no bad repercussions there.
Like, when things are working as they're supposed to, like it supposedly works, but like all ancient civilization machinery, eventually there's a cog that gets thrown loose, and so angels wanted free thought. That's the first problem.
So it wasn't really even enough to make Sylvanas as evil as she was. She's literally working for this world's version of the devil.
Essentially, yeah. Like, it introduces this concept of the first ones. And a lot of the people that...
How many first ones have there been now?
A bunch. And in fact, this entire thing starts to retcon the Atlas that was released several years ago that was supposed to be like them setting the lore like straight. And the answer to that is, that was written from the perspective of a Titan. The Titans don't know about the first ones.
Yeah,
I was about to say
these are the firstest ones.
the more firster ones. No, the Titans were not the first ones.
The Titans weren't even the first ones anyway, because the old gods existed. So
we're getting firster,
even firster ones.
Yeah,
these are the even firster ones.
So there's a running joke for Infinity, the minis game, where whenever they release new stuff, you can tell what they've been watching recently because all of their sculpts have look like characters from TV shows. And I feel like this is the Warcraft version of that.
Have they all been playing Destiny?
It's like they've been playing Destiny and watching The Good Place. And that's the expansion.
If only they had taken the writing from The Good Place, this might be more entertaining.
And the problem is like the zones are very uneven. Like, Bastion is boring as hell. It is a slog to get through. Maldraxxus, the second zone you go to, I love Maldraxxus. Like, it's fun as hell. Like, you're starting to actually interact with interesting people. Like, there's kind of a cool story going on in Maldraxxus.
Yeah, so I haven't gotten as far as Bel has. I've gotten partway into Maldraxxus, and it's not exactly my jam, but it is a marked improvement from Bastion, so I'm happy enough. It took me several days of making myself play, to actually just forcing myself to play to get through Bastion. And now that I'm through it, it's like, oh, okay, this is more like a WoW expansion, and it feels like a story. And I don't care that much, but it's not really the game's fault. I'm sort of checked out of WoW anyway, but the story has improved. It's adequate. There are more interesting things happening. It's keeping me engaged instead of feeling like I have to make myself sit down and play. I'm like, oh, okay, I can do this. This is fine.
Yeah, Maldraxxus is kind of the point where the plot of what's going on is discovered through the quest, and then you're on a path to try and right the ship, and that ends up leading you to Ardenweald, which is the Winter Court.
That's the one I'm looking forward to.
It is an awesome zone. I really enjoyed the story. It is 15 sads out of 10 because the whole this is I'm not gonna spoil anything that wasn't already released before the expansion, but basically there are these fawn I don't remember what they're actually called, but they're like little deer people that tend to the groves. And the whole theory behind Ardenweald is it's basically where the wild spirits go to be reborn. So that like once one of the great wild spirits from Azeroth or any of the other planes dies, they go back to Ardenweald. So like an Ursoc or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so when we killed all those dudes, they went back here to okay.
And they go back, and over the course of a period of time, however long it takes to basically regenerate, these little grove tenders gather up the anima and feed it to their little life seeds until they're ready to be reborn again, and then they return to the wild.
But because the machinery's broken, did we just send them all to hell?
No, well, there's a drought, and there's not enough anima to go around. So in an attempt to keep Ardenweald from falling apart entirely, the Queen has assembled the Wild Hunt, which is now going around and culling the groves that are too weak to survive, and draining the anima from the seeds that aren't going to make it anyway to take back and bolster the seeds that have a chance. So it is a zone full of sadness. It is a delightful zone. Like, I love the story, I love the characters, but like they released a little video prior to, actually it was shortly after the announcement of Shadowlands, that basically goes into the lore, and that's basically what the video says. And sure enough, you get there, that's the reality. It is a withering grove. And events there will lead you to Revendreth, which is where the prideful souls go to be rehabilitated. The ones that maybe aren't evil enough to go into the Maw. So like one of the ones that's shown in the little pre-video that was released is God, what's his face? The bad war chief. Garrosh, yeah. Garrosh is there, and he's basically being tortured until he repents for his sins. And the act of torturing generates anima that gets collected and passed along to these vampires, basically.
Okay, so this is the more goth than thou zone. This
is where the Sand Lane come from, that are the vampires from Warcraft. And basically this is super goth land. It's Castlevania. It's you basically either have the vampire people or the Stonecraft people, which are either gargoyles or like little Hunchback of Notre Dame henchmen type people.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward to this zone. Basically, if I could have chosen which zone to start in, it would have probably been that one.
Right. Like, to me, you start in the weakest zone. Like, it may be a pretty zone for some people, but like, it is the weakest storyline-wise, because basically when you land in Bastion, you don't know what's going on yet. And through the events in Bastion, it ultimately starts the path that leads you through the rest of the story. So it's, I don't know, like, it feels like there's just not enough call to action in Bastion. Like, you're just kind of roaming around doing angel things.
Just angel things?
Just angel things. So this is the other weird thing about this expansion, is it feels way smaller than I think it actually is, because it's essentially 5 zones. But like, every zone is its own little island. There is no connective tissue directly between them. You have to traverse the in-between on like a mana worm that looks like you're going through a Stargate tunnel.
Okay.
And because they're individual, like, self-contained islands, it feels smaller than a normal expansion would. Like, if you took the space from all of these things, put them on a single landmass, it would probably feel normal.
It doesn't help that in order to see all of the zones, you have to like right-click, zoom out on your map. And I admit that I was questing and got a quest to go back to the Shatrath place, and I couldn't figure out how on earth to do it because it said, oh, fly back to wherever. And I didn't realize that you had to right-click on the flight path map to zoom out of the little island that you're on and actually see the other pieces of the world. So it definitely made it feel small and slightly confusing.
So, remember me telling you to put a pin in the maw and we would return to it?
Yes.
So, the maw is this zone that is horrible, and like the game tells you it's this horrible, scary, dangerous place. There's problems with the maw's design, as far as I'm concerned. You can't mount in the maw at all. It is Warcraft trying to do a Dark Souls zone.
Ugh.
Yes. So there's some weird stuff going on in this zone. First of all, you eventually, through the quest, find this vendor that looks suspiciously like the ethereals. Like, there is a kind of critter roaming around the Deadlands that looks suspiciously just like the ethereals, minus the bandages. And they are hiding from the jailer, and they are basically acting as like an unofficial broker, selling people in the maw stuff. And they figure out ways to get back and forth between the maw and the other areas. And because you're the maw walker, aka you're the person who figured out how to leave, they are interested in your ability to do things. And they serve two purposes. One, they sell you things that change the way Torghast works, and I'll get to that in a bit. And two, they sell you permanent benefits to the maw. So, you know, in a Dark Souls game, how you keep spending souls to buff up your character in some way?
Sure.
You're basically doing that through this vendor. While you're in the maw, you're collecting this currency called Stygia, which is one of 3 soul-based currencies that do different things, and then you spend them with this vendor to get benefits. But you can't just grind for Stygia forever, because while you're in the maw, you are slowly gaining the attention of the jailer. And there is a GTA-style heat system that as you do stuff in the maw, you gain more and more attention, and each time you reach a milestone in the attention, something bad happens. Like the first one, when you get to rank 1 of the jailer's attention, these previously non-aggro overseer type critters are now aggro to you. Step 3 is there are these towers that start like targeting you. So while you're fighting things, they will like shell you occasionally with something that appears underneath you. You need to move out, and if you get hit, you get like bound by 4 pillars, and it deals like, I think, damage over time until you break free. So you have to go like click on these 4 pillars to break yourself out. And at 3rd, that's the highest I've ever gotten, is 3. But like actively assassins starts being sent after you, and they will just pop up while you're fighting something else and deal ridiculous amounts of damage. So it is a zone that is dangerous to traverse because there's no mounts. It is dangerous to be in for very long because you're slowly getting more and more penalties applied. But I'm guessing there's got to be some benefit to being there. Like, I haven't really found it yet. Other than
I was going to say, you haven't found one yet.
No.
Why are you going there?
Like,
because you're the ball walker.
Like, I mean, I mostly go there to get to Torghast. So Torghast is this Palace of the Dead. It's Palace of the Dead. But it's actually way cooler than Palace of the Dead. It's Rogue Legacy. Like, that's really what it reminds me of. Is you can buy buffs while you're in there that improve your chances as you climb it, and each layer has 6 floors. At the end of the 6th floor, there's a boss. There's 8 layers per wing, and I think there's 8 or 9 wings total. But as it's a lot like Hades too, because
I was about to say
it's more like Hades.
They shoved a roguelite into WoW.
They shoved a roguelite into WoW. And it's actually really cool. Like, so every so often while you're in, you'll get a boon drop. And the boons usually give you a pick between 3 things. And they modify your abilities. So, like, one of them that I had the chance to get earlier today that I did not take. So a lot of times, like, the common ones are just universally beneficial. The green ones are still universally beneficial. The blue ones start to have weird reactions, but by the time you get to the purple ones, they almost always have a negative effect. Like, it's really cool if you want to do this one thing. So I've been playing a paladin, and Avenging Wrath is like the big buff that paladins do. So this one changed Avenging Wrath so that while Avenging Wrath is up, you block 80% of all the damage taken. But if you did not kill your mob by the time Avenging Wrath is over, all of that damage, the 80% that was blocked, is dealt directly to you, basically killing you. So if you think you can kill a mob before the buff is up, then it's great. Like, it basically means they deal next to no damage to you while you're burning the mob. But, like, if you fail, you're just going to get this feedback that's all the damage that it didn't deal to you. There was a purple one that I got that turned you into a horse for some reason.
Now, are these buffs only applicable in Torghast?
They're only applicable to the current run you're on.
Okay. Oh, no, it very much is just Hades then.
Yeah. So when you're done with a lair, it all resets back to 0. And then the next time you come in, you're starting back from square one. The little vendor person also sells you things that permanently modify your experience in Torghast as well. Torghast is going to be critical for people. What
are the rewards? Like, I mean, this is a WoW game, so I'm going to just ask it, like, why do you go to Torghast? What are you grinding to get?
Legendary items.
Okay.
This is how you get legendary items. Completing Torghast gives you yet another currency that is spent in the antechambers of Torghast with the runesmith, and they inscribe legendary gear, basically designed to order.
And, like, it used to be legendaries were really only weapons. Is that no longer true?
No, this is
just
a whole bunch of legendaries.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there've been legendary amulets and capes and things.
Yep.
So orange is the new purple?
Well, it still has
Previously,
the same.
You can only equip one at a time. I have no idea if that's still true.
I think you can only have one of them equipped. I'm not 100% sure about that. I think you can only have one equipped, at least at start. There's probably some progression system that allows you to equip multiples, just like there was in Legion.
Okay, so it's like Destiny Exotics.
Yeah, it's like Destiny Exotics. And various content in the game will get you patterns that you can use to create different kinds of legendaries. And I think it takes roughly 2 weeks to gather up enough material to craft a legendary. Or at least, if my progress is any evidence, like, they seem to be doing some pretty hard gating as far as how much of something you can get in a given week. The end result of a lot of this is gone are the red and blue factions, but now there are the covenants. And the covenants are basically you are helping to bolster one of the 4 zones you encounter.
So not Paladin land.
Yeah, like not Paladin land, Undead Army land, Night Elves mostly, and
Super Goths.
Goth Vamps. And you get an ability in each of these zones, and thankfully you pretty much get it like shortly as you enter the zone, so you get to play with it for a while and determine which one you like the most before you're finally asked to choose one. You can change covenants. It is prohibitive. Like, it basically, you lose all your progress.
So which one of these is actually good for raiding now?
They're all good, sort of. It depends on the class.
Yeah, on what role you're playing.
I followed my heart, and I loved Maldraxxus, so I am a paladin that is beholden to an undead army.
Details.
That is
reasonable.
That is appropriately Warhammer.
And like, in part, there's the main reason why I did it is like the 2 abilities that it does are really good for tanking, because they're high mitigation abilities. There's like Vanquisher's Hammer, which deals shadow damage, but it also, like, the next time you use Word of Glory, which is the proc free heal that paladins get, it also applies a big shield to it. And then there's Fleshcraft, which is you surround yourself in a shield of flesh and bone that absorbs 20% of your maximum health over 2 minutes. So, like, those abilities, yeah, those work really well for tanking. So I ended up going that way. I thought I would go Kyrian because they get an ability that applies a thing to 5 targets, and if you're a Tankadin, it is Avenger Shield. So basically it throws 5 Avenger Shields, which is just kind of silly for, like, threat. Also, it probably pulls a lot of unintended targets because my Avenger Shield bounces 4 times. I did not go Kyrian, though, because I just don't think I could handle hanging out in Kyrian land. Like, it was such a boring zone. Like Undead Land has this cool metal soundtrack and skulls everywhere. I mean, the only negative is it basically looks like the Plague Lands. And
this is a negative.
Like there's giant vats of ooze, and you can pet some of the slimes. There's a thing I caught on a screenshot that's hilarious, which was like one of the little helper people that folks refer to as Swolkins. They're like little Moonkin characters, but they're like super buff and they're adorable. It was riding around inside one of the oozes. Like it was sitting about halfway down an ooze, and it like was leaning back, sticking out of the ooze, and it was riding around. I don't know. Probably the funnest thing is Torghast. It's a lot like Diablo 3 Greater Rifts, and there's a significant gap between difficulty of the first layer and difficulty of the next layer up. I doubt I will get higher than layer 3 for a long while. I managed to beat layer 3, and I don't know how I managed to do it. You basically have 4 deaths in a layer before a mechanic triggers that is supposed to kill you. So after you've rezzed for your 4th time, this monster spawns at the base of the tower that you've been climbing and starts making its way to you. And if it gets to you, you're pretty much going to die. But it does allow you that, like, if you were close to finishing something off and you take a death, there maybe is a chance you can finish what you were doing before death arrives at your doorstep. But I don't know, like, I'm struggling. Like, they're doing a bunch of interesting things. I'm just not entirely certain how well it works yet. like, this is probably one of the more risky expansions that they've ever done. And, like, the jury seems to be pretty much split on this. I was looking at Metacritic the other day, and there's no official reviews, but, like, the reviews that are the user reviews are pretty much
user reviews are always 10 or 0, so
no,
it's not really saying a lot.
Yeah, I mean, but like the user reviews that are in, like, are either glowing or totally negative. Like, there's
That's
no middle.
what user reviews always are.
But it's like 50-50 right now. I mean, it's like split down the middle. And if you go out on forums right now, like, that's what you're seeing a lot of, is people aren't sure if they like this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely in that I'm not sure if I like this camp. I definitely started out pretty negative, and I'm making myself give it the benefit of the doubt until I at least play through the main story quest and get to the things at the end game and see Torghast. But the initial feel of it does not feel good.
They've made some interesting tweaks to go in a different direction than where WoW was going. Like, the last couple of expansions, there was no point to run dungeons. At least no point to run non-mythic dungeons. And that's not the case this time. Like, you basically have to run normals to get gear in order to move up to heroics, to get gear in order to move up to mythics.
I'm saying Legion made you run the dungeons anyway for story purposes, but heroics had no purpose at all.
Right, exactly. Like, nobody ever queued for heroics. They seem to have they seem to have basically put in the tiers of dungeons and making them useful again. The dungeons are a little hit and miss. Like, some of them are kind of painful. Like, the first one you unlock is real painful.
I also admit that I've been leveling as DPS monk, and I thought, I'll try to heal the first dungeon, and got through the first boss. It was really miserable, and I just ghosted out of it. I'm not even ashamed. It was stressful enough that I didn't feel like dealing with it, and I will try it again as a DPS at a later date.
The best dungeon that I've encountered is the other side.
The other side
trained by trolls.
You're going to save your old friend Juan Samdi.
Friend is too strong a word for that.
Like, I mean, you know, of all of the denizens of the afterlife, I think he's the closest thing we have to as a friend.
Fair.
But Mazala, his boss and devotee of the jailer, has basically captured Juan Samdi, and you need to go help him by getting back mojo that he's loaned people. So you port around, like, he ends up creating portals basically for you to go to, like, these different areas to visit people that he's lent his mojo to until you have enough to fight not Bonsomdi, but fight Mozala on his behalf. But, like, it was delightful. Like, it's a great story dungeon. Others are just, I don't know, like that first dungeon really just has the first boss is just painful, and then it gets easier after that. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, like, it's growing on me the longer I play it, but I also don't know if I'm just getting used to it, or it is a weird expansion. Like, I applaud them trying something different. Maybe they shouldn't have just, like, straight copied a bunch of stuff from Final Fantasy XIV, but
apparently including having to force yourself through the first part of the game to get to the good stuff.
Ouch.
Oh.
I don't know. Like, I think Bastion was the first zone they built, and I don't think anybody ever went back and improved it, because it's not good. It is not good. Like, there's people that like it, and more power to them, but, like, I think I've run into more people that didn't like Bastion than liked it.
Hey, my other concern about it is that has an expansion where the story forces you to go through in a linear order, the thought of having to level and alt through that again is not appealing.
So they have some other new leveling system that I'm not sure how it works called Threads of Fate. I don't know how that works, and I want to find out more about it to see if that maybe is a better option. The other thing that they stole from Final Fantasy XIV is the fact that like everything is gated based on main story quest progress. Like you can't basically in every other World of Warcraft expansion, I would ding whatever the level cap is before finishing a zone and just drop everything I was doing and immediately shift into I'm going to go get in-game power now. Thanks. And that is not a thing you can do here. You have to finish the main story quest in order to unlock any of the in-game systems. I mean, thankfully, I didn't ding too far ahead of the end of the main story, but it felt real weird because, like, that's not how this is usually worked.
No, and I have some concerns about that, considering because I've been leveling slow and picking lots of herbs and things and getting rested XP when I ignore the game for a day or two here or there. I think I'm 56 and I'm still only partway through the second zone of the four.
I was 57 when I exited Maldraxxus. And Ardenweald and Revendreth, the part that you actually do for the main story, is less of the zone than you do for Bastion or Maldraxxus.
That also seems unfortunate. Like that they make you spend so much time in Bastion.
I know, like it's really front loaded because you spent more time in Bastion than you do in Maldraxxus, like by far.
I mean, that makes it sound like they got progressively more rushed as they went through zones.
Mm-hmm.
That is probably exactly what happened. I don't know. Like, there are some interesting systems at play. The Covenant system is kind of cool. It's basically a garrison of sorts type system. But what's weird? Okay, what's so weird about it is it's an incomplete garrison. You have to build your garrison. So, like, your systems that you unlock, you have to go do stuff in order to get the stuff to unlock the things. The borrowed power system this time is soulbinds, and doing all sorts of random stuff in the world gives you these abilities that you can use kind of like talent points.
But I didn't think talent points still existed.
Oh, yeah, they still exist, but this is like a different talent system on top of it. I don't know. I don't know how important it's going to be. I only have 2 of them unlocked currently because they've hard-gated progress. You gain renown with your Covenant, and in this first week, you can only get to a maximum of 3 renown, and there's like a 40 total renown, I think. And supposedly, as it goes along, there's going to be catch-up mechanics to make it faster to gain renown so that you're not permanently behind. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on, and I'm not 100% sure if it works.
So I've been trying to put my finger on it while we're talking about this, and I think part of the issue is like you're kind of coming in late to the game with a main story quest. Like, the main story quest works because it allows you to feel like your character, the story that the game is telling, is drawing upon your character's history with this game. But this main story quest doesn't get to do that. This main story quest gets to tell the story of this expansion and this expansion only.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, and so far, at least, running into the dead people that I recognize and have seen in other places, none of them know who the heck I am or care, other than that I'm the fancy person who escaped the maw.
So apparently that does exist, but it's based on account age, which seems like a really horrible way to do it.
What?
Wait,
Yeah. I mean, because, like, okay, spoilers, one of the people that you run into is Lady Vosh. And apparently, if you are playing a character that's been around since vanilla or since BC, there is additional dialogue when you interact with them.
Is it the character or your account?
The character.
Wow.
Because this is like like I've cleared Serpent Shrine on this character, but
right, but not when it came out.
And it may be that like it's triggering off of the quest that was associated with killing Lady Vosh back in the day, which is no longer in the game. The one that opened up keying for Black Temple, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that means even if I played on my character that has existed that long and has beat her, but not when it was current, that it still wouldn't recognize.
Right. Yeah, like it's a real ham-fisted way of doing it. I'm going to run through at some point on Belghast, my original Belghast, and see what the interaction is like, because I'm curious now. I mean, and that character got keyed for Black Temple back in the day, and it should have all of the pieces in place.
Having actually done that, that's not a good way of doing it. Like, what?
Well, they have no account-wide flag that you've done. Well, they do, actually. It's achievement.
Yep.
So they could have keyed it off that.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's why I say there are so many things you could key off of.
Well, they also keep track of every time you kill the boss.
In your transmogs. I mean, even if they didn't have achievements, like there's a lot of options.
But yeah, like it's a real ham-fisted way of doing it. Like, but you're encountering characters that like you knew in Azeroth, and there's no recognition of the fact that you knew them. And that's honestly like one of my long-time problems with World of Warcraft as a whole. Like, way back in Cataclysm, when you were doing quests for Alexstrasza in Twilight Highlands, and like they did not acknowledge the fact that like my character was exalted with Wormrest Temple.
Yeah, it's like like you guys love me. I helped you kill your crazy brother. Why don't you remember who I am?
So like it's really hard
to Cenarian Circle, but not the Cenarian Enclave.
There's been 3 of those now, at least.
Yeah. See, and I mean, okay, not to toot my former team's horn, but like this is part
please
of the
do,
reason.
because that game's ability for characters to recognize what you've done is great.
Like that was like what you're describing. I'm pretty sure that Wormrest Temple was quoted specifically when we were talking about, hey, we need to have characters recognize what you did. And like, I mean, some of the things that we wrote for ESO are just absolute if-then sequence nightmares, but they adequately and accurately reflect what you've actually done in the game.
Well, and the thing is they're still doing it. Like, with the expansion content, like, it remembers stuff I did way back at the release.
I mean, one of the examples that I remember just being hideous was Razumdar. Razumdar is an absolute nightmare of conditionals every single time you speak to him, because he's constantly commenting on other stuff you've done. And like,
well, and you can reach him in any order. Like,
yeah,
like you'll encounter him 8 times in a single zone.
Yeah, and it's all written under the assumption that you might have encountered him in any order. There's like, and yeah, it's a total nightmare. But like, there was a system for it, and I feel like if you build that system in, it doesn't matter what you're keying off. If you can key it off of an achievement, you can key it off of whatever, and we key it off of all kinds of different stuff. I mean, hell, you can key stuff off of what is the character wearing. Are you wearing the item that you got from the quest?
Well, okay, so there are two hallmarks for me of World of Warcraft. One is we can't have anything nice as a player without it also being awful at the same time. Like, I am convinced that is a design ethic.
Mm-hmm.
They will never give us anything that is just universally positive, hands down. There has to be some fatal flaw to the system. The other hallmark is the unwillingness to touch anything that comes before this expansion. And I don't know if that is because of high turnover in the team. I don't know if that's because of poor documentation. But Blizzard has never been willing to touch a system past its expiration date at the end of an expansion. And the same is true with like quest content. Like, they never update quest content.
It feels like
so much. There's so much quest content that makes no sense anymore because a person is doing something that, like, people that are dead now are still showing up in quests.
New WoW theory. You, the player, don't actually exist. You're a shared delusion between like 5 or 6 of the main characters of the game.
We're an imaginary friend. Anyway, what were you going to say, Kodra?
I mean, it feels like they are also pretty hesitant to even go back to old zones and put new stuff in them.
Yeah, I mean, they do that occasionally, like when they added battle pets, when they've like the transmog system and some things. But a lot of their go-to tactic with those is they will do an event, and it's a one-time event, and they'll update something for the event, and then it's gone forever.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like they're willing to go back to like old Azeroth zones sometimes, but they very rarely will go back to old like expansion zones.
I mean, if you have to load up the zone, they don't do it. If you can tweak a couple of spawners or some back-end data, they will.
Look, there's still a loading bar between zoning out of the Draenei and the Blood Elf areas into the rest of Azeroth.
Well, because you're time traveling. I mean,
we blew
that's
up the world with Cataclysm. That should have been the time
to fix it then. You knew they weren't going to fix it by now,
right? Exactly. Like, it's still there. Like, and they've destroyed Undercity, for example, but you can still visit Undercity because they haven't given the undead a new zone. You just have to go talk to one of the Bronze Dragonflight dragons to zone into the instance of the past where Undercity's not a screwball, so you can go in there and bank and the heirloom vendor is still in the zone that is now in canon destroyed.
Okay.
Like, the one heirlooms vendor for the Horde is in Undercity.
We're going to end up having to have Crisis on Infinite Azeroths, aren't we?
I think we need it.
Sorry, I'm just still processing. For people listening, I have not played WoW since, I think I'm the oldest person, the longest clean on WoW.
I think you probably are.
Cataclysm, right?
No, I played the first dungeon, I played the first raids in Mists of Pandaria and then stopped. But I didn't do anything after Mists, which I think means no Legion, which came next.
No, Warlords was next.
Warlords. No, I definitely didn't do any Warlords. No Warlords. Yeah. That sounds awful. Their major city is destroyed, so you go to the Bronze Dragonflight, and everyone just is like, yes, we're totally here in this past version of the city because that's the only way we could make it work. That might have made me quit the game.
And that's not the only place that is broken like that. You have to use the Bronze Dragonflight. I'm drawing a blank as to what else.
The Blasted Lands comes to mind.
This is the Infinite Dragonflight's plan, isn't it? Just to get us addicted to their power.
This is what drove Nosdormu insane.
Yeah.
So wait, so So Silithus is stuck in the past now?
Well, see,
No, the current Silithus is a giant sword stuck in it.
right. So if you want to do
okay.
anything other than look at the giant sword there, you have to go back to the past.
And Blasted Lands has at least 2 versions.
Oh, dear.
It's only 2, right?
I think.
One with the Outlands Dark Portal and one with the new Outlands Dark Portal.
I still think the best thing that can possibly come out of Shadowlands is for basically World of Warcraft to end and another game to start after this one.
Nope. The dream is dead. I don't believe. You can't trick me, Bel.
I mean, because like while we're in here, there are other people controlling Orgrimmar and Stormwind. Like basically all the people that mattered ended up getting dead or like fake dead and getting teleported into the Deadlands.
Oh, jeez.
They've tried and failed to create a WoW 2.0. I don't think they're going to try and put their hand on that again.
I don't know. Like, I mean, I think that's the only way that this ever makes sense.
I don't think this ever makes sense, but I think that there's a lot of good and a lot of, person hours spent crafting things and systems that are pretty functional and work well and interesting. But a clean slate would really help things.
Yeah.
And it is one of the benefits of this expansion in some ways, because we're in the Shadowlands and no one knew anything about them before, that yes, there are some characters that we see and recognize, but mostly it's a cleaner new world. It's not a weird alternate past. It's not, it's not an island that somebody just happened to find, and fight over. It is relatively clean and has that lack of faction, at least red versus blue faction happening.
For now.
So that piece of it does feel pretty good.
I mean, the best stuff that I've seen in recent WoW expansions, not that I played that many of them, but is the stuff where they're like, hey, we're starting from a clean slate and we're going to introduce new characters and do new stuff. And like, if you took all of the new WoW stuff that they'd made and put it together somewhere apart from the rest of WoW, it would be a pretty solid game and a much less confused one.
At this point, I think they do have a bit of a Destiny's Edge problem. They have accumulated a few too many characters that people just don't like anymore.
Yep.
Sometimes stories have to end so that you can start with a clean slate.
I mean, that's when you give those characters just jobs or kill them. It's like you can do this.
Or flash forward 1,000 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is like, that is my hope, and it won't happen because I know it won't happen. But the best thing that could come out of Shadowlands is time passed differently while we're in the Deadland than it does in the real world. And like 2,000 years have passed while we were in the Maw.
Yeah, but Sylvanas and Thrall and Jaina, and they're all in there with us. So it doesn't really help you.
Yeah, like that's the thing is that like I could see where you'd be like, oh, okay, well the next expansion is the future. But like, no. When you say clean slate, it's gotta be a clean slate. Like you have to blow up the good with the bad so that you can start.
The thing is like the whole aspect of our character is no one else can leave the areas so far. Like basically that's what they've said. So like I could see not that Blizzard would ever do this, but I could see like you have given us a test case of why one character can leave but nobody else can, because like various people are still trapped in the Maw, and you are slowly rescuing them, but like I don't think they can actually cross the boundaries in the way that your character can.
No,
Well-
see, here's how I would do this, because I know where you're going with this, Bel. You're like, I don't want to ever lose my character, but I want a clean slate.
I'm fine with losing my character if it gave me a clean slate.
I mean, clearly they need to follow the A Realm Reborn solution.
They did that once.
Yeah, but they
did that once.
I mean, in A Realm Reborn, everyone's characters went away, right?
It's no.
Right.
I have my character from back then.
Well, yes, but didn't you have to start back at level 1?
No, actually.
You didn't? Oh.
Nope. I mean, okay, my character was like level 8, but
I mean, you'd have to do the whole new. You had to do the whole
you
new
did have to
story
start the main
quest.
story from scratch.
I mean, that still might be enough.
No, I would do a thing where you start a completely new game, and part of your main story for that game is you are digging up the relics and records of some ancient hero to follow in their footsteps. And if you had a previous account, you import that and everything updates based on that. And like,
Double click to travel to the ruins of the Hall of Monuments.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like that would be cool. And like, yes, it's a thing they did in Guild Wars, and yes, it's kind of a throwaway in Guild Wars, but like as a main story
It doesn't
arc,
have to be.
compelling.
Well, in here, going back to the whole Destiny's Edge problem, like it's a bigger problem than Destiny's Edge, because in Destiny's Edge, pretty much everyone universally agrees that they're horrible characters, but the characters that people hate in WoW are all vastly different characters. Like there are people that love a specific character that everyone else hates.
Well, I think we need to pause because I think in Guild Wars 1, people liked those. Or no, these weren't in Guild Wars 1.
Yeah,
Right.
Destiny's Edge is not in Guild Wars 1.
No, that's why we kill them all.
One of them didn't die. Okay, one of them is actually still traveling around with us.
Yes,
But he did kind of die.
he did die. Yeah,
That's fair. They did remove him from the story for like a year.
yeah. Like he came back pretty different.
But like you could get us to start telling a story where people stop liking all of the characters.
I'm not sure that's helpful.
It's true. Or you could just kill them all. I'm actually speaking of
Oh, Gate to the Shadowlands closed. They're stuck on this side. We're sorry.
Speaking of killing them all, how are you getting back and forth? Is like
With a Hearthstone?
Perfectly reasonable.
Like they've not
Look.
explained why we can interact with things but nobody else can.
Because you're not real. That's why.
I mean, they did do a convoluted thing where when you first contact your, friends back on Azeroth, you had to do some ritual with the piece of the broken helm of the Lich King that you're carrying around with you for some really good ideas reason.
Oh man, is it taking up an inventory slot?
No.
No.
Aw.
but that would be the Blizzard way. Actually, they have given us a slight explanation, but it's kind of a bad explanation. So during the course of Battle for Azeroth, we would disappear periodically with Magni Bronzebeard trying to save the planet, and in doing so, we've basically bonded with Azeroth. So Azeroth was basically Hydaelyn, and we are the avatar of Azeroth.
All right, so Crystal Dwarf and Giant Crystal are the same thing. Got it.
Sure.
Yeah, because basically, Crystal Dwarf is the real avatar of Hydaelyn. I mean Azeroth, and we somehow got those powers too.
So why is he not helping?
I don't know. Maybe he can't leave Azeroth. I don't know. He's like
This
a giant diamond now.
He probably can't die anymore, and so he can't go to the Shadowlands.
He did turn into a rock, so that
He's a character
might
from
check
last
out.
expansion. We don't care about him anymore. Who?
this feels like very Doctor Who, Soulsy Woolsey necromancy stuff.
But But yeah, so basically, like, we can do a thing that nobody else can do. So in theory, yeah, I would leave everyone in the Shadowlands. They just are dead now.
I feel like...
And our character can move on.
I feel like they did... So again, you said, yeah, they're doing Final Fantasy XIV. Literally, they are doing this in Final Fantasy XIV, but they aren't just lampshading it. Like, this is a problem that we need to solve. Like, we understand why the Warrior of Light can go back and forth between the first, but none of our friends can, and that's a problem.
Well, and also we like all of our friends and we want to keep them.
Yeah, that's most of them.
Okay,
Yeah.
No, I even want to keep him.
I was going to say, are we talking about Thancred or are we talking about Urianger?
I'm talking about Urianger.
Okay.
Urianger can go straight in the sea.
That is unkind to the sea.
Like, he had his chance.
He had several chances.
He's had several chances, yeah. Has he ever not been horrible?
No.
I gathered no, like...
He has never
Like, I think as I understand
he's
it,
got
his
some
first
honesty
appearance...
issues, even though he has the best of intentions.
I mean, as I understand it, his first appearance back in the original game, he, like, sets dogs on you, so...
He has never shown any trust in us. Like, when given the opportunity between withholding information that we could use to simplify our lives or like telling us information and moving the plot forward, it's always keeping secrets. Like, everything becomes needlessly complex with Urianger because he loves to keep secrets.
I bet there is...
Why isn't he the spy master of the group?
Because
he's not a good spy. He sits in a room and learns things.
There is a whole subplot, the whole expansion subplot arc that is like Urianger's trust issues.
Yeah. I mean, they do at least, like, explicitly address this. That, like, no, really, this is a problem and you need to stop.
And then he immediately doesn't.
It's true. Yeah, he and Thancred run off into the wastes.
The next possible opportunity, he lies again. But, like, I don't know, I'm back to all of the problems are there, but, like, also they're doing a lot of really interesting things that they've not done before. And I don't know, like, I mean, I still can't figure out if I like this or I don't like it.
Like, I'll be honest, I am generally willing to, like, there are a lot of times in games where I am willing to be like, look, this wasn't executed great, but absolutely I applaud the developers for trying something new and bold and different.
Right.
But
that's also not what Blizzard does. They polish things that came from other places.
Yeah, and frankly, when you're Blizzard and your game is World of Warcraft, and what you're doing is something that other people have perfected for years, it's really hard to give you credit for being bold and new and different, because it isn't.
Yep.
There are at least 4 other MMOs that do this exact thing, and MMOs haven't been released all that recently.
Like, on some hand, I think, Tam, you would find what they're doing interesting, but I also don't feel like it's probably worth you attempting to resurrect a character to get it there.
Only to kill that character off.
No, like, honestly, I'm at the point where I just don't think there's anything WoW could do to bring me back.
I thought there might be. I liked Legion, and BFA taught me that if I liked something, it wasn't going to stick around. So I'm not even going to try anymore.
Right. That's a big part of it.
And that feels really bad, though, because, like, there's a lot of really interesting systems that they could have dipped into and improved over time, but they haven't shown any willingness to do that.
It is funny how far you can look back to see this happening, because, like, this is one of the things that they learned in their very first expansion whoops, we introduced stuff in vanilla and that was a problem and now we can't design around it. Like, Thunder Fury is exactly that.
Are you saying they learned that lesson in vanilla?
Well, no, I'm saying that they learned that behavior of, let's just, like, rather than try and figure out a way to design around this, let's just throw this thing out. Which is basically what they did with all of the weapons that were designed in vanilla that had effects that you couldn't outscale by just making the numbers bigger. Like, for a while there, it was just, oh, whoops. One of the very few ways for tanks to get multi-mob threat is just equip Thunder Fury, and so they're going to keep doing that. Well, might as well make sure Thunder Fury doesn't work anymore. Let's take this system and get rid of it. And I feel like that's been their MO for dealing with systems that they design in an expansion is, yep, well, the expansion's done, let's just get rid of it.
I mean, it's basically the equivalent of the Magic ban list, except for it's miles long at this point.
It's everything
the list
that
of
is
cards you can't use in modern is also, or in standard, is also miles long at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of like rotation.
It would be like if it would be. I mean, it's basically like modern. That's the one where you can only use the most recent expansions, right?
Standard.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So it's like standard.
Here's
like,
the super important.
You can use what's in the latest expansion. That's all. Everything else gets thrown away.
Here's the super important thing about standard, though. They refresh ideas and bring them back with new interesting twists all the time.
Whereas with WoW, it does seem like it's like, oh, were there elements of that you liked? Well, I hope you enjoyed them while you had them, because now they're gone and now they're gone forever. Because nothing that has those same ideas will ever happen again.
And like Grace said, there's a lot of goodness in there. It's a lot of it is buried, but there's a lot of goodness in there. And like, while I don't think, like I said, I don't think there's any way for me to ever go back into WoW. If there was a WoW 2, I'd probably be in there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, give me a clean slate. Give me, a coherent refreshed narrative. Like, yeah, I'd probably into it.
I mean, I'm probably gonna keep trying new MMOs that come out because I like playing MMOs when they are a clean slate. Not that it just feels like it's been a while since a new proper MMO in my mind has come out. Like, they've mostly been displaced by Destiny type things.
Entirely?
Everything is entirely online, so yeah.
Which is like, Destiny is kind of an MMO, but in very many crucial ways is not.
Well, and even that has been iterated on so much that now they're just soulless. I mean, Godfallen, I've not talked about it much, is the most soulless looter game I've played. Like, it ticks a bunch of the boxes for that formula, but like gets none of them right in a way that feels reasonable. I just was instantly bored. And Avengers at least had a really cute storyline, but it has problems similar, that it doesn't really understand what it's trying to do and doesn't understand its itemization.
I'm watching for the next MMO that I look at and I say, there's no way that's good.
And the next one that gives me any hope right now is New World. But like, I feel like I will be into New World for a number of months because the central conceit of that game of wanting to make you care about a group of players controlling territory isn't a long-lasting want for me. I would love to see somebody try something that's not been done in a way with the same amount of follow-through that the MMOs of old had.
I feel like the level of fidelity we expect from a game and the like scale of the MMO that we expect, like, the scale cannot be too big or too small, right? Has to be just right. so that every place feels alive and also, but the experience feels big.
I'd play the Assassin's Creed MMO.
I would absolutely play an Assassin's Creed MMO if it controls like the more modern Assassin's Creed games.
Well, I mean, I'm just going from like concept, but like mad dashes through history. Yeah, I could get into this.
I feel like I can envision a Destiny-like Assassin's Creed game more than I can a like persistent world Assassin's Creed game.
I can see the persistent world one, but boy, would it be weird.
Persistent world one would be a bunch of disconnected time boxes. It'd basically be Secret World, but Assassin's Creed instances instead of, I mean, different areas of the world. But they'd have to figure out a way to make you care about your real world character.
Yeah,
in addition to
your real world character is the linchpin that ties everything together, and it would be super important. And I think that the way now I'm just gonna pitch you this concept, but like the way you do it is you pick however many old, like ancient or historical locations. You build them, and then you build them again in the modern day. And instead of somebody who sits at a computer, you have all of the same stuff in the modern day as you do in the past. And you go into the past to learn new stuff for you to do in the modern day areas. And so you're going back and forth through history to present day.
To solve mysteries.
Yeah.
And rewrite history.
And I think it's that point at which we've derailed. Also,
You think that's the point where we derailed?
Also, we went way the hell over time. So
We sure did.
we accidentally an entire show on me talking about Shadowlands. So, that happened. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will do another one of these next week. Hopefully we'll see you then. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See ya.